Okay, tonight we're going to talk about fair housing. What do you know about fair housing laws? What? Truth in lending, it's there, but what do you know from personal knowledge about fair housing laws? What do you see? Okay, most of you are old enough. What has gone on in the last 30 years in your lives to appreciate what's gone on with fair housing laws?
This discrimination that's been addressed.
Right. We've had laws on the books for over 100 years, but those laws have not been enforced until recently. And even today, the way the laws are enforced is not right, is not done fair, is not. And today in our political environment, the political environment we have today, it's encouraging people to be hateful, to be suspicious, to not want to be welcoming and warm. Fair housing laws, part of what that was all about was everybody accepted everybody equally. And that's not going on today. It's still not going on. And there's a lot of things that realtors are supposed to do to encourage fair housing, but there are some things that realtors do to be the good person trying to do right, and they actually violate fair housing because they steer people. They want to put people in the neighborhood where they think they should belong. That's not the right thing. I mean, they're being good. They're being nice people, saying, oh, you ought to be with people that you know, you have things you like. You're going to be good neighbors. But that's not what this is all about. It's a black and white as far as financially you qualify, financially you can live anywhere you want. And it's not up to the realtor to make decisions for people. Take the house information, what are they looking for, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, whatever they're looking for, the price range. It's not up to the realtor to tell them what neighborhood they should be in. It's up to the realtor to show them what's available.
Like one of the first times that you mentioned that, as far as like steering or whatever, or maybe it was in one of the other classes. Way back when, in 1992, my husband and I at the time, we were looking for a house, first house, and we were a biracial couple, and our realtor said, you don't want to move here. And because it's a very racist community. And I remember, so of course we were moving to a neighboring community, which at the time was Springboro. And, we lived there for, forever. 26 years, but obviously after being in Springboro for a year, she was absolutely correct. We didn't want to go to that other community that she said, which was a neighboring. The school districts were right up against each other. To the point where, when my boys were in high school, they were still getting off the bus. People were calling different names and whatever. But I never knew that she wasn't technically allowed to say that to me. You know what I'm saying?
Again, in her heart, she was trying to give you the right advice.
Right.
But technically today, they're not supposed to say that. Now, if I knew that was the case, you kind of, no, you shouldn't be here. No, you shouldn't be here. But I will tell you this just as a personal thing.
Right.
This is what I know about this area.
Right.
I'm not trying to do anything to you. I'm just going to tell you what I know about the area.
Because the homes were a little bit cheaper. Maybe 10, 15,000 when you're buying your first home. That could be whether you make it or break it. But she was like, you don't want to be there. That's not where you want to go. So, which I'm so glad at the time because we wouldn't have known any better.
No, because you weren't there for a long time. You mentioned something I read recently about going up to Columbus and trying to live in an apartment for a while you learn the neighborhood.
Right.
And that's ultimately what you should do, to learn the neighborhood yourself. Where do you want to be? And take time. My aunt, when she moved to Indianapolis, I told her, Aunt Lisa, get you a good road map. Because her daughter got her Garmin, so when she got lost, she'd be able to figure out where she was. I said, no. Get you a good road map. You know how to read a road map. You're in your 70s. Read a road map. And when you get lost, figure out where you're at. Write down everything you see. Write down the little shops, the restaurants, and everything, and go back sometime. Don't let it panic you and fear it, make you scared to be where you're at, but learn the area. And that's how you learn it, by getting lost. My youngest son, when he used to drive, wanted to go to the bagel shop. He ended up near Kings Island. The bagel shop is in Blue Ash. And we're like, how did you overshoot that? But because he wasn't paying attention. And so, like, what did you learn? Learn where you're driving. And this is the same kind of thing. Learn the neighborhoods. As realtors, we know the neighborhoods. We know the personalities in the neighborhood. It's okay to share some information. But again, you're not supposed to be steering. You're not supposed to be giving that kind of influence. But Again, it's the right thing to do, but how do you not? How do you not? It's a very questionable thing. So, fair housing laws. Term used to describe national policy against most types of discrimination. We have something called equal protection. It's a constitutional mandate that all people be treated equally under the law. So we have the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was amended, and it had coverage, it had prohibited actions, had aggrieved parties, and equal opportunity posters. It created some guidelines in 1968. Like I said, this law historically goes back 100 years before that. The other illegal acts is blockbusting, practice by which real estate agents attempt to exploit racial tensions. Is when African Americans move into previously all-white neighborhoods through repeated solicitations for sale of homes. In other words, saying, hey, your neighborhood's going down. They've sold to so-and-so, and now do you want to sell now? They're trying to induce panic sales. Redlining, denial of a loan by lending institutions exacting harsher terms for loans, or the denial of insurance in certain parts of the city. I love how this says certain parts of the city, because the other day I was listening to a redlining case that was about a black farmer buying a farm property, not getting the coaching through the Farm Bureau administration that he was supposed to be given. And he had a valid case against the Farm Bureau administration. Steering, channeling by a broker or salesperson of prospective home buyers toward or away from certain areas, either to maintain homogeneity or to change the character of that area, usually for the purpose of enhancing sales. Again, what your realtor was trying to do was not to enhance sales. They were just trying to be truthful about, hey, this is, do you really want to be exposed to this? Do you want your kids to be exposed to this? So that's a little different. You got to be careful how you tread. Fair Housing Act with persons with disabilities. We talked about this in the real estate principles class. What are reasonable modifications? What do you need to do when you own real estate? When you own a house, you don't have to do reasonable modifications. It's your house. It's for you. The next buyer can do whatever the heck they want. When you own rental property, reasonable modifications means you do the inexpensive things first. If you're going to be remodeling and putting out a fair dollar amount and having to get a building permit, the building department is going to come back and say, you got to set aside a certain percentage of this for these reasonable accommodations. The building department will get on you about doing that. Today, when you build brand new multifamily, a certain percentage have to be set aside to be accommodated. There's group home accommodations, when literally group homes that people live in. There's all kinds of things that the Fair Housing Act has set as standards for people with disabilities. So you respect the fact that it does exist and they need to be accommodated. Familial status refers to a family with one or more children under 18 years of age with a parent or other legal custodian. It's not your job to say, I have a 2-bedroom apartment, and therefore only if you have a daughter and a son and they can't be in the same room together. That's not your job as the rental manager or the property owner to say that you won't rent that way. Your job is to go find out what's customary for the area you live in. Let the housing agency in the area you live in dictate what the rules are going to be about how people can live together in an apartment or the house you're going to rent or whatever. There's an exemption for housing for the elderly. If it's 55 or 65 or older, you have to be consistent with that. What's going on today is we're seeing the reverse of this, where kids are living with their grandparents in senior communities, and the seniors are being asked to leave because the rest of the seniors in those communities don't want the kids, teenagers, growing up in their neighborhoods. That's not why they bought there. They bought there to be an elderly community, to be all adults, all of an age. So there's this exemption for housing for the elderly that you need to understand. There's statutory remedies. There's administrative enforcement. The Attorney General can do litigation, and there's private litigation. So privately, people can sue. The Attorney General can come in and sue. Administrative enforcement can actually place fines and enforce other issues with what's going on with the property discrimination. We have overlay zoning. This goes in another thing. For some reason, at the end of the book here, it superimposes additional restrictions on existing zoning districts, and that belongs in another chapter, I'm sure. What I do want to talk about is there's something in Cincinnati called Housing Opportunities Made Equal. Housing Opportunities Made Equal is called HOME. They're a United Way funded agency. They will work with every realtor group to train them to do what's right, to understand what's right and wrong. They do training sessions at the Board of Realtors. But they would rather train you and your shop to do the right thing than come back after you and push charges against you. So Housing Opportunities Made Equal is a free organization to get resources from in Cincinnati. Again, they would much rather train you to do it right than wrong. So read through this. The Real Estate Principles book goes into a lot more details of fair housing and how it's done. But those of you just taking a law class, it is a law that we have to acknowledge and take care of. And there are certain things that you as a realtor should be cognizant of and aware that you're doing to make sure you're doing your job right. Any questions on fair housing? Gentrification is how neighborhoods change, and they go old to new or new to old, whatever. But some of the things that they're doing, the redlining, the steering, those are things that happen as a neighborhood is going through gentrification or to start the gentrification that are illegal. But it doesn't mean that gentrification is illegal. Gentrification is just simply an area changing, coming new,